and I leave probably around 9:30. But
You get there at 15 to 7? Who's there by then?
Just myself. I sit down and I eat my breakfast by myself, and I have often said I sit there with all my friends and myself, and there's no lies. And then Bob Burris comes in about 8 o'clock, quarter to 8, and then they'll all start rolling in.
So you're there for 30 minutes by yourself?
I do my banking on my phone, and I do texting that I need to do, and I eat my breakfast all by myself. I don't have my wife telling me that I need to straighten up or comb my hair or something like that. I'm by myself, and I enjoy it, really. And I've been there probably at the Liar's Table for 15 years, maybe.
I don't know, Tom. I started going there when I was 14 with my Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
And you were there. Do you remember the first day we met?
No, I really, it's been a long time. It seems like I've known you.
Remember when people would take tomatoes?
Oh, yeah, they still do.
And Pam was the waitress. Remember Pam?
Yeah, I remember
and
Pam.
So she cut up my tomatoes, and I had a whole plate, and I knocked the whole plate in your lap. You don't remember that?
No, I'm getting kind of old. I let that.
But what impressed me is you didn't get mad.
My wife will tell you differently, but I'm like a steam locomotive, and I build up a head of steam. And up until I build the head of steam up, I'm pretty calm about things. But I don't remember that. But I do remember, and I believe Ken Albury, you worked for him as a mechanic.
Yeah, as a mechanic.
As a mechanic, and then you went to the assessor's office, and then you started building on the side. So we go back a long ways.
You're one of my best friends, Tom.
Same here. I've enjoyed the relationship and the candor and honesty, and it means a lot as we travel through life.
I can always depend on Tom.
There's one thing I try to do is tell you what I think. And that way, hopefully it's correct. And if it's not, we'll try to correct it. And I don't try to wishy-washy around, and that way I can sleep good at night, and I don't have to be concerned about what I said.
One thing about it, you're not known to sugarcoat it.
No, and there's no place for sugarcoating things in today's world. Action and honesty is where we should point ourselves.
That doesn't necessarily mean agree, right?
No. I'm one of those individuals, and you and I can have a heated argument, and I can have a cup of coffee with you 5 minutes later. That's the key to friendship. Is people that can be friends, disagree on ideology, political ideology, or work ethics, or something like that, and then get along after they have their discussion.
And sometimes people might change their mind.
Might, unlikely, but might. And sometimes people will debate with you or argue with you just for the sake of arguing.
Sure, yeah. I know sometimes at the restaurant we used to change sides just to have something else to argue when we just flip the point of views.
That's true, and at one time we had a lot of Democrats at the Liar's Table, but most of them are gone now. We have a couple that come in and visit us occasionally, but all of us, like the political offices in Bradley County, all Republican.
All Republican.
All Republican, yes.
Except Bebo.
Bebo is Bebo. Bebo is on the road a lot. He's working hard right now.
He really is, isn't he?
He's traveling He's traveling Alabama, Georgia, and Middle Tennessee to the east. And he enjoys it.
Why is it appraising has gotten to where now it's, you'd never thought of an appraiser going to Alabama. It was always around here. Now it seems like all the appraisers are traveling to there, and their appraisers are traveling here.
There's a couple of reasons for that. One is technology has advanced to where you now have access to all the public records online. You have access online to the demographics of the area you're going to. Chamber of Commerce, Census Bureau data. you have all of that. And another reason for that, now we have what's called appraisal management companies. And they hire you by zip codes that you're willing to go to. It's basically how they hire you. And in my case, I've told them I'll cover like a horseshoe in Alabama, around no farther south than Tuscaloosa or west, then it'd be like a horseshoe coming back up. Then I'll go to Metro Atlanta, north side of Atlanta, and I'll go as far west as Nashville. But the pay, you get paid more, or I do get paid more. I'm not going to do it free of charge, I can assure you.
Yeah.
But the pay's pretty good. The industry, it seems like the bureaucracy in the government tries to eliminate appraisers instead of having an environment where you can become one. You know, the educational requirements, the training requirements are so severe and strict that very few people can get to be an appraiser and have a normal life in today's world. But,
So you'll travel what? How many hours sometimes?
Let's say I'm going to Birmingham Tuesday. It's about a 2.5 hour drive down and back, and then the time I spend there. But I'm sitting in my car, my satellite radio, listening to either Fox News or jazz, one or the other. And it's very peaceful. I enjoy it.
You make phone calls while you're driving?
Yeah, I've got Bluetooth on my thing. I can send text messages and phone calls all by.
You text while driving some?
Yeah, not like you're referring to. I
Yeah.
text while driving through Bluetooth.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just hit the button on my phone and
Voice.
it'll ask me to give my text message,
Oh.
and I'll give it, and it'll send it, and then I can respond the same way.
Well, that's incredible, isn't it?
It really is. And a few years ago, you couldn't do any of that. But I don't text and drive, as we commonly refer to around here. And I don't talk on the phone by itself. Try not to. And I've got a mechanism on my phone that it won't receive calls anyway while driving. It'll stop that. But I've been doing appraisal work since 1985.
85.
Yep. The licensing act came in 91 time frame. And I took the test along with several hundred appraisers at the time. And my license number is 370. So I'm down there at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy the work, enjoy meeting people. And it's a pleasure.
Have you seen values in Cleveland go for, a while back, I remember you saying the $65,000 house was no more.
No, you don't have the house under $100,000 anymore, basically, that you want to buy for a first home, and you have a decent job, you want a first home. You don't find that $100,000 home anymore. You're sitting there now at first home, you've got a basic job, 160.
God.
And it's sad. The prices have skyrocketed. The demand has accelerated. Where we're finding these buyers, I don't know, but they're there. You can actually, in many cases, buy a home cheaper than you can rent a home.
Mm-hmm.
And consequently, if you've got decent credit and a job, you tend to go ahead and buy the home. And that's what we're experiencing. The cost of materials, it forces the prices up. The existing home sales generally trail new homes. And a lot of people make a mistake. They'll sell their existing home without checking the price on the new homes.
And they'll sell their house and have to buy a house of a smaller just to stay even.
Just to stay even. And not expecting that to happen.
People will call me and say, we're going to sell our house and we want to build a new one, and I hate to tell them what their house is going to cost.
Well, you know, 10 years ago it was about $70 a square foot. Now you'd be lucky to get a basic home at $130, $135 a square foot.
No, sell price.
Yeah.
So your sell price, your price per foot is for the lot and all. In my mind, I always think of just construction
Right.
cost. A lot of times I even forget to put in profit. Which is
No, you don't want to forget that often. Now,
I forgot it a lot.
That's not good
Yeah.
to forget the profit angle of it. But no, we deal, appraisers deal in history. We go back to previous sales. So we're dealing with homes that have already sold. We're not looking into the future per se.
So you go back, what, 3 months, 6 months?
6 months, occasionally a year, depending on some properties and the location. You have to go out to a year. And land, sometimes you'll have to go out 3 years to get vacant
Do
land.
they allow you to go back that far? I mean, to get a
Yes, they
comp?
will, if you can explain why you're having to do it.
So you can't skip 2 years and go back 3 and pull an appraisal to raise the value. You have to.
No, the underwriters will catch you in a heartbeat.
Is there more rules in appraising than I would ever imagine?
Oh, every FHA, Fannie Mae, all have their separate underwriting rules. Yeah. There's a lot of rules, but after you just keep track of them. Basically, you do what's right. You know, if I go in a house and I see the electrical box in the closet, we got a problem. Okay, that's not right.
Yeah.
If I go down the stairs or up the stairs and I bump my head, I'm
Yeah.
6'3.5" now. I've shrank a little bit, but we've got a problem. So
Yeah.
it doesn't meet code if that's the case, and it's interesting.
So y'all look at things that don't meet code also.
Yeah, I do. I have to if it's FHA because
Oh.
I'm going to be held responsible for it.
So you're almost an inspector in a sense when you're doing FHA.
Well, up to a point. I don't want to go too far on that because I'm not a licensed contractor and neither am I a licensed inspector. I'm just an observer, basically.
So you an observance of something that's not
something
right
that's not
would
right.
have to be noted.
That's
like
right.
this deck is leaning like this.
Right. I go up to FHA as an example. I go up to your stairway up to the porch or your deck. Safety rails on the side. Safety rails around the deck. If it's over a step, or I call it a step and a half, you got to have them. I mean, it's just a fact of life. But most builders understand that. Some new realtors don't.
But it's existing houses that's a problem.
Yeah, the new houses generally aren't a problem.
Yeah, because the inspector's watching them.
Yeah, you got a
and the
building
builders
inspector.
generally know. They don't.
Right, you got a building inspector that's been there several times, and the building inspector has given them a certificate of occupancy at the end, so you don't have an issue there.
Say you buy a house out here that's $80,000 house, and you're going to fix it up, and you're going to put 20 in it, and you're going to try to sell it for the 165 you're talking about. There's a lot of profit there right now, except if you start bringing it up to code and fixing all the stuff that I know needs to be fixed, I'll have 180 in it.
That'll easily happen if you're not very careful. It's a dangerous thing to be flipping houses and try to make a huge profit. It's hard to do if you do it right.
The only way you can do it is if you're ignorant and you're not aware of everything that needs to be fixed.
Right. That's very
Yeah.
true. A good way of putting it.
Yeah.
As a matter of
Yeah.
fact. Yeah. That's true. But I enjoy the work. I'm 76 years old. I mean, I don't need to be working, but I enjoy it. What would I do if I wasn't working?
Well, you're a county commissioner, so that doesn't take any time, does it?
No, it takes a lot of time. I enjoy being a county commissioner. I'm on my second term.
Now that's the second district, right?
Second district,
Which is where?
which basically Paul Huff Parkway going north. Candice Creek is the western boundary, all the way to the river. Anything on the right side of Candice
So
Creek.
River Point
River Point's
up in
mine.
Charleston?
That's mine. I enjoy the work.
Where's the eastern boundary?
Eastern boundary is Paul Huff, Stewart Road runs into Michigan Avenue. Turn left, everything on the left is second district down to where the three-way stop is at the airport.
At the airport.
Turn right, everything on the left-hand side is second district down to Chatham Valley Road, and turn left. Everything on the left is 2nd District down to Cates Lane. Take a right. Everything on the left is 2nd District, and then it curves back in. It's a big area. Includes Charleston and Cleveland, that part of Cleveland. Mouse Creek Road, the population density lies in Mouse Creek Road areas where the density of the people are. The money lies up North Lee Highway, but the masses live in the Mouse Creek Road area.
So the money's on North Lee, and the population is Mouse Creek.
Mouse Creek generally, and it's hard to accept that till you drive out through there. It's just a mass of subdivisions.
You can't hardly drive down there nowadays.
No, it's at certain times of the day, it's just bumper to bumper through there.
That's where I was raised, on Mouse.
Yeah, Eldridge Acres.
Eldridge Acres,
Yeah,
West Eldridge Acres.
West Eldridge Acres.
And past West Eldridge was gravel. Do you remember when it was gravel?
Oh yeah, I go back farther than you. I remember when it was hazardous to travel the road because of ruts. And going all
Where
the way
did
to
you grow up?
I was born on Lowry Street, East Cleveland.
Which Lowry is?
Community Hall Church, over there about.
John Paul Douglas.
I guess.
He went to Community Hall.
Okay, I was right around the corner where I was born in 44. My mother and father divorced when I was 2. Mother had never had a job except being a farmhand for my grandfather. So we moved, she and I moved in with my grandparents, her mom and dad, in Charleston, down in the vicinity of B&B Boat Marina. And no electricity, no water. And
was that common then?
Yeah, it was common, yeah. I remember when the electricity came in. I remember when the first phone came in with 6 or 7 people.
About how old were you when the first power came through?
Probably power, I was probably 6 years old, maybe 5. And then my mother remarried a obese alcoholic in Meigs County. We moved to Meigs County for a few years, and he was killed in a car accident, and we moved back to Cleveland. I've been here since, except my time in the military. But had a rough upbringing. There was no freebies.
So where did you go? Did you go to high school or?
I went to the old Mount Harmony Elementary School on Eureka Road is where I attended elementary school, and I got the 9th grade at Charleston. I finished the 9th grade at Charleston, started the 10th grade twice at Bradley, was politely told I was expelled.
What did you do?
Conduct. So I tried the 10th twice and didn't make it. So at that point...
now what did you mean conduct? I mean, you had to...
people making fun of my name or my economic condition, and I would attempt to knock the living heck out of them. So I would try to equalize the thing, and they didn't appreciate that. And I can, looking back, I understand. But I was I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was the starting center in the 9th grade basketball at Charleston. Thought I could play basketball pretty well until we played Bradley and I met Steve Sloan. I discovered real quick I knew nothing about basketball. And I think I scored 1 point on a foul shot, and that was it. And back then, in the 9th grade, I could dunk the ball. So I'm just a beanpole back then. I've kept a lot of it through the years since then. But at 16, my mother, she was a single parent, and she had her hands full with me. And she had triplets in Meigs County. One died, and then she still had identical twins to take care of, and single parent, not educated. My grandfather and grandmother.
So you got identical twin brothers?
Half brothers, and they're both dead now. My grandfather and grandmother Berger could neither read or write. My mother had a 3rd grade education, so it was a tough life. But we made it. That's the main thing. And Then I went in the Army at 17.
After you left, after they kicked you out of Bradley, did you just head to the Army?
No, I worked, I got kicked out of it very quickly in the 10th grade both times. And I worked for Willard County well drilling. And
Not Stan.
No, Willard.
Was that his?
It was
Stan was his.
Stan was his cousin or brother or something. No, and Willard went into retail after that.
Yeah.
But worked helping dig water wells for a year or so. And then I worked changing tires down at Tri-State Tire and Supply, a tire store on South Lee Highway across from Bradley High, in truck tires. And I discovered that wasn't any good either. I didn't like that. So I decided to try to talk my mother into going into the Army, and she finally agreed to sign the paperwork.
What was the purpose of going into the Army?
To get away from Cleveland. So
Did they not have the draft then?
they had the draft, yeah. Yes, they had the draft back then.
So you were going to go anyway, right?
Probably would have gone anyway, but I wanted to get out of Cleveland. I was sick and tired of Cleveland. I look back and maybe it was a mistake. Maybe I should have conformed, but my mother signed the paperwork, and the recruiter told her where to sign. She signed the front page, didn't look at the back page. And the back page, I had volunteered for Germany. I wanted as far away from Cleveland as one could get. And she later discovered that I was going to Germany and blew a head gasket, but that's
what year?
I went in the Army in 1961, June the 12th. 61.
No wars? Let's see.
No, we had the Berlin blockade after I got to Germany. I was in Germany. I arrived in Germany Thanksgiving Day, 61.
Let's see, just the regular Army.
Regular Army,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, I went to the regular Army. I arrived in Germany Thanksgiving Day, 61 at, trying to think of the city, Kitzingen, I think was the name of the city, 3rd Infantry Division. And Christmas holiday period, I was
where did you go to boot camp?
Oh, I went to boot camp, basic training at Fort Knox, and I specialized training in Morse code. I was a high-speed radio operator. I thought I was, and I went to Germany. And
Well, did they sign you up for that, or did you?
no, they just took my test scores and thought I'd be
So we're talking about the 10th grade dropout.
9th grade dropout.
9th grade.
Yeah. 9th grade dropout, and they sent me to Morse code school to be a high-speed radio operator.
Could you do Morse code right now?
No, I
But you
couldn't.
could then.
I could then.
Yeah.
I did it well enough to pass the course and got to Germany and never used it. I was assigned to the communication section, but I never used my Morse code the whole time I was in Germany.
Was boot camp hard?
I thought it was at the time. I could shoot real well. When I got through the harassment part of it, I had convinced myself I needed to conform and listen to that nonsense until I got through it. And I did, and I made it through it. And made it through the second phase, the training for the Morse code, and then I went to Germany and let my mouth overload my rear end real quick, and I got straightened out by the first sergeant there, and then I settled down and became a soldier after that.
How did they do that then? Straighten you out?
Took me behind the bushes and worked me over from in the stomach and
Sure
and
enough.
rib cage. Yeah, he tucked me back there and convinced me that my mouth was overloading my rear end, and I thanked him after about 3 months later. I thanked him because it changed my whole outlook on life. I then became a soldier. Matter of fact, I was the youngest sergeant in the battalion when I got promoted to Sergeant E5 in Germany.
And you're in Germany.
Yeah, I was in Germany, 61 through 64, and got promoted the day before President Kennedy was assassinated to Sergeant E5. So I was the youngest one in the battalion, and I was a hardcore soldier. I went to language school for speak broken German, and I was an interpreter for the executive officer
Is broken German different than German? Is it? That's like the basics, I guess.
Very basic,
Very
yeah,
basic.
very basic. I think it was a 2-week course. I never did learn to write any of it. I could carry on a conversation at the time, but I can't now. I can speak just a few words of German now, and count numbers and things like that. But I was 17 and a half. I was on the East German border behind a 50 caliber machine gun. So
Not in the war, just
on patrol,
Yeah.
you know, on the East German border. Yeah.
so you're in there for 4 years in
3
Germany.
years.
3 years in Germany.
3 years in Germany. I re-enlisted.
Did you become the E5 then through that time?
I became an E5 and then I re-enlisted in the Army. But I loved it. I loved the military. And after I got straightened out, it was my way of life. And came back to Fort Bragg, 82nd Airborne Division. None qualified as a parachutist. I was assigned to the 82nd with the intent.
You were going to parachute?
Yeah, the Army had sent me there, and they were going to send me to airborne school at Fort Benning.
Was that scary? Thinking, oh, I may have to jump out of the plane?
No, I looked forward to it. At the time, I was still half crazy back
That
then.
you never did jump out?
No, what happened about 3 months later, they snatched me up and sent me to Fort Jackson to be a drill sergeant.
So you're a drill sergeant at age?
Let's see, that would have been 65. I was 21 as a drill sergeant. And then.
So you were a drill sergeant yelling at people just.
Oh, I was a mean drill sergeant too. I was tough. I was tough. I had the first cycle that went through. I was not number 1. I was number 3. But every cycle after that, I was number 1 in my company.
What do you mean number 1?
As far as my platoon on test scores and all, was number 1.
How long were you a drill sergeant for the?
I left to go to.
I mean, for a particular group. Like, was it like
8 weeks? We'd pick them up at the reception station.
Did they hate you?
I would say, yeah, basically they didn't like me very well. But they were molded. They were broken down and then built back up, and they had discipline because they were on their way to Vietnam, and all of them knew it. And
now, when you say discipline, what do you mean? I mean,
you respond to orders without necessarily thinking. You're young, and somebody tells you to do something, you say, "Yes, Sergeant," and you do it.
no thinking.
No thinking. You just, and then older you get, that won't work.
Why is that?
Well, you start thinking that you mature, your mind matures. But when you're young, 18, 21-year-old range, you react very quickly. Not out of fear, just out of discipline that's been instilled in you.
Is that the better way?
I think it is.
I mean, today, if we were like that, would? Of course, we don't have anybody. We don't think anybody's smarter than us to tell us what to do. Right?
No, that's true. And if we had to draft today, we wouldn't have all these social problems and issues that we have, because every one of them would have to go through some form of training
or discipline,
for discipline and accepting responsibility for your actions.
Now, when we say discipline, we don't mean just take your hat off when you enter a room. We mean.
No, that's just part of it. Discipline is obeying orders, following instructions, being told how to dress and dress accordingly, being told how to make your bed and you make your bed that way. You clean up after yourself, and that's accepting responsibility.
Like on Gomer Pyle, he had his foot locker and.
No, you never used the stuff in your foot locker because it was on display. God help you if you ever used it and the drill sergeant came through and saw something.
So in other words, if you've got it right and he approved it, don't move it.
Don't move it. No, leave it alone. Don't mess with it. That's the worst thing you can do is get that bar of soap and use it.
Oh Lord,
that would not be good. But when I was going back, digressing a little bit, I made it Sergeant E5. Now I had a 9th grade education, got up to E5, and then at Fort Bragg, they told me I could not get promoted any farther unless I had a high school GED. So back then we worked on Saturday mornings and we were off on Wednesday afternoons. So I went down to the education center on a Wednesday afternoon to find out what I needed to do to get the high school GED. So the gentleman there, he was active duty, a soldier. He said, "Sergeant, we need to give you a test to see what courses you need to take." I said, "Okay." So I sat down and took the test. And about a week later, I got the results. I had passed. I had now had my high school GED. So I went from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. And I got to Fort Jackson. I immediately got promoted to Staff Sergeant E6 as a drill instructor. And I left there, went to OCS with a high school GED, officer candidate school at Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Because you're a drill sergeant is lower than an officer candidate?
Oh yeah. Drill sergeant enlisted, and you go to officer candidate school to become a commissioned officer. So I went to signal officer candidate school.
Is that where they get the stripes?
The sergeant's got the stripes, the lieutenant's got the bars. And
On Gomer Pyle, Sergeant Carter had 1 up and 2 down.
Yeah,
Or 2 up,
3 up, 2 down.
3 up and 2 down.
Yeah, he was a E7.
E7.
Yeah, I was an E6. I had 3 up, 1 down. And then I went to OCS. I was a distinguished military graduate in my class, and they wouldn't commission me in the Signal Corps because I had bad eyesight.
What's the Signal Corps?
Radios, communications.
Oh.
So I came out number 1 in leadership and number 5 or 6 in academics. Overall, I was number 2 in the class and couldn't get commissioned in the Signal Corps. So they gave me my choice of non-combat arms, and I took Adjutant General Corps. And then the rest, I went that direction in my Army career.
Adjutant, what do you call it?
Adjutant General Corps. It's a paper pusher. It's basically, I was in personnel management, personnel actions and stuff the rest of my time. And went from there, and then I went to Fort Campbell with the 101st.
But now, how was the Vietnam War during this period?
I went to...
Because at 64, you were 21-ish?
Yeah, and
you were a drill sergeant, and the war was not on yet.
The war was on when I was a drill sergeant. I got promoted to E6 in the infantry as an infantry squad leader. So I knew I was going to Vietnam in the infantry as an enlisted man.
For 2 years?
For 1 year.
Because that was the tour time?
1 year is a tour.
Yeah.
So I chose to go to officer candidate school and become a lieutenant, which I did. Then I went to Vietnam in 1968. During the Tet Offensive, that's when I arrived.
So you arrived during the Tet Offensive?
I arrived. Our plane was laid over in Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines because it could not land at Benoit Air Base because of fighting. And we got there about 4 days later out of Clark, and just unbelievable just carnage, human bodies. I got there, and it's a sight I'll never forget. They had flatbed trucks pulling dead bodies off the barbed wire in Constantine.
What, you mean American bodies?
No, Viet Cong. They were.
But the Tet Offensive was when they had the
religious holiday of Tet.
And everybody thought that. Now it's not the Tet Offensive. It's Tet. How do you say it?
T-E-T. Tet.
Tet Offensive.
Tet Offensive Tet was a religious holiday in Vietnam. And what they had done, they had prepared for an offensive during this holiday for a surprise factor. And countrywide, they went on the attack. And there was carnage everywhere. Bodies, I've never seen so much in my life. It went on for about 5 months. And after that, it was basically quiet.
So in your 5 months, your first 5 months in Vietnam, it was just, they were just pulling dead bodies out.
Well, no, when I got off the plane, they were pulling dead bodies off the wire around the air base because the helicopters had caught them coming over and killed them. And then they had to wait to pull the bodies off, and they were like, they'd stiffened up. They were like cordwood. They just throwing them up there on the truck, accumulating all their weapons and stuff. But then it was not good after that. I had one of my men lost, shot in the chest.
Did you have to go out into the jungle?
No, I went out on on patrol, we had our routine things that we did. 101st took care of all that. That's where I was at in Vietnam. And we went on patrol right there around the perimeter just to make sure it was safe. And my job, I was the officer in charge of the bunkers. Quite frequently when it came our turn, I was the only one with infantry experience, so I took the bunkers, and we had claymore mines placed out in front, and barbed wire about 12 inches off the ground, interlaced, and we would catch them trying to sneak in under that barbed wire, and we took care of them. So it was quite a bit of stuff going on for that next 5 months, and then we got them pretty well wiped out. It was quiet after that, but it was rough. As I said, I had one soldier killed, a stray bullet right in the chest.
So you were the man in charge of them?
Yeah. I had another one. I had given instructions never leave the bunker unless you have checked with we had a guard patrolling behind the bunkers, and you were to never leave unless that guard was aware. And I had one that had used the bathroom, so he left without checking, and he got wiped out by the patrol. So I lost two needlessly, but I was the officer of the guard that night. It couldn't be helped, but you just couldn't take the chance. That's why the guy was back there.
Yeah.
In case somebody got through and you didn't detect them, you had that guy back there hopefully to take care of it. And any movement, he destroyed it. And these were kids. These were personnel people, kids, young people. And I had one kid that froze behind a machine gun, had an M60 machine guns in those bunkers. Something was rattling out in the barbed wire, and he had never fired anything like that. He just got petrified and froze. And you had to go through that, But it was an experience that I don't want to go back. There's no reason to have wars in our life, especially one like Vietnam. It should have never happened. We left 58,000 people dead in Vietnam. For what? I often make the thing that we're now doing business with in Vietnam. We're best of friends. We've got Cuba 90 miles away, and we haven't spoken to them since 1958. So I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
It just the logic is not there.
Yeah.
Why in the world we were in Vietnam? I've heard all this nonsense that they tell us, the domino effect and all of that. But I was there. I look back and I don't understand why we were there. Never have. War is the last resort, absolute last resort. And then when it's used, your job is to kill and destroy. It's not to pacify and be nice. And people have a hard time understanding that. But then I've only got a high school GED, and come back to Vietnam, and I started going to school at night when I got back, and going to college, and got in Okinawa, and 2.5 years in Okinawa. And the Army chose to send me to Nebraska and Omaha to get my 4-year degree. So I got a degree at Nebraska at Omaha, graduated class of 74 in business, minor in economics. And then I immediately went into my master's program and got a master's in management. Now, here's a boy that left Charleston, 61, with a 9th grade education. And here I am in 75, 14 years later, with the equivalent to 6 years of secondary or post-education. So then I went to Command and General Staff College, and my body caught up with me. I was physically worn out. As a student at Command and General Staff College, I had a seizure, and I chose to retire at 20 instead of going on. I had a seizure disorder detected, and So that basically ended my military
So you
career.
ended at what rank, I guess?
I was a major, promotable to lieutenant colonel, but I chose to get out as a major. I had orders at Commanding General Staff College. I already had my assignment instructions for the Pentagon. And then from there, I was to go to Germany. They already had it laid out for me. But when I had that seizure, they gave me a profile. I couldn't do anything really, physically, legitimately do anything. So I just chose to retire. And I retired as a 37-year-old major out of the Army in '81.
I'm guessing that's about when I spilled the tomatoes on you. Because I was about 14.
Yeah, you're my oldest daughter. She was born in '66.
I think she was in my class or when I went to Cleveland.
I moved around all the time in the military. Hope, my oldest daughter, was a sophomore when I retired at Cleveland High. That was her 12th different school system in her life that she had been to.
I remember that. I remember she came to this school during the middle of the year.
Yeah, during the early part of the year.
Yeah.
I retired and I had 75 days of leave accumulated. I retired June the 30th, but I actually came home back in April. I went on 75 days leave early. Came home and worked at Bender Realty and still drawing my military pay until June the 30th. But it was an experience coming back to Cleveland for the girls because they didn't move around anymore.
Yeah.
I stayed on the move all the time.
Was you scared in Vietnam?
Yeah, I'd say I was concerned. Would be not scared. I was concerned. We had our place we slept. It was enclosed with sandbags, 2 layers thick around all the way around on the outside, and then the ceiling had 1 layer of sandbags in the ceiling, and then there was a layer of sandbags at the entrance where nothing could come straight in. So I was concerned. We were pretty well fortified where I was at. But those rockets, they just shoot those rockets off, and they're not accurate. They just go anywhere. They just shoot them in a direction. And some of them got pretty close. A lot of concussion to a 122 millimeter rocket.
How many was in your thing that you were in charge of?
Where we slept, it was 4 of us.
I mean, you were
4 officers where I slept. Yeah, but I was the people that when I was on guard, there'd be about 35, maybe 40 on guard duty. We'd always have 3 to a bunker.
In these, when they have when people go to boot camp or whatever for the 8 weeks, is people say, is there more that the body can give after it can't? You know what I'm saying?
I can tell you this: the human body is incredible at what it can withstand and do. Look at the Navy SEALs as an example. The torture that they put their body through. These kids, some of them never been away from home when they come to basic training. And you take them out the first day, give them the exercise, and they say, hey, let's go for a little trot. So we take them for a 2-mile run. Hell, they'd be passing out and falling over the ground. And
football players, it didn't matter, right?
No, football players generally are not runners. They're muscle people.
Yeah.
They've got good shoulders and stuff like that, but they're not. There's some that are runners. Receivers are runners, but most of them aren't. But we never, one would fall, and you'd always assign somebody to go back and pick them up, and then everybody went together. So that's part of the training. You never, if they got out and threw up or passed out or something, 2 people go back and pick them up and put them back in the formation and take them until they finished.
But you've seen people go beyond.
Oh yeah, oh goodness, yes, beyond what you would think the human body's capable of doing. Yes, but you got to be in shape. Your body has to be physically in shape to do that. And a lot of time it's not.
But can the body give more if you're not in physical shape? Is the adrenaline, or you hear people picking up cars and
yeah, I would think the adrenaline builds up, and you can do much more than what you think you were ever capable of doing, up to a point. But you're going to have to get that body in physical condition.
But these people that have somebody under a car and they pick them, you've heard stories of people picking up cars in emergencies and stuff.
But those people aren't, they're not your normal obese pizza eating person. No, they're doing physical labor, and they're pretty well tuned up physically. But what drives that? It's just the human nature of your body that you get geared up to do that. You do it without realizing what you're doing.
Can the mind say, you can go further, you can go harder, you can go further, you can go harder?
Yes, it can, and it will. The mind will tell you that it can do more. And you'll want to quit, and then you got someone like your drill instructor tell you, no, we're no quitters, we're going to run. So you keep running. You say, I'm going to quit, I'm going to pass that. Run. And then
even throw up?
Throw up, then you pull them back into formation, and two people hold on to them, then they still come. And then the next day, they're going to make it, generally, or 2 or 3 days, they'll make it all the way through. And it's the mind is and the body is something. It's really amazing what your body can put up with.
And there's no better place to test that than in wars or in military training, right?
Military training, football, athletics comes close to it. But, not close, but it helps. But military training, the discipline is where it's at. Part of the discipline is your body. You're disciplining your body at the same time. I gave the example earlier that self-discipline on making your bed and your uniform and things like that, but the self-discipline is your body too, your mind. You discipline your mind, or your mind disciplines you.
Do you think that the things they taught in the Army, like keeping your bed made up and things organized, somehow or another tells your mind that the rest of your world's going to be organized too, or something?
I think it establishes the base for it. It tells you what has to be done, and you do it, and you'll do it the rest of your life. I'll guarantee you give somebody a cot and the blankets and the sheets that's been in the military in 30, 40 years, they can make a bed on that cot, and they can pitch a quarter and it'll bounce.
I got 2 guys that work with me that have been in the Army. The rest of them haven't. The ones that have been in the Army, heat doesn't bother them, rain doesn't bother them, mud doesn't bother them, wind doesn't bother them. They don't even know it's there. Everybody else is cold and shivering and hot.
Oh, they've been through that nonsense. They've been through the mud and the rain, and they've been to Crye or Germany where it's raining all the time. It's muddy, it's cold and miserable. No one needs to go on training exercises when it's June or July. People need to go on training exercises November through February when it's miserable.
Yeah.
So you can be disciplined on how to handle it. And that's basically what I experienced in Germany. We stayed in the garrison during the summer months, but we stayed out in the boonies the rest of the time.
Which you want to do just the opposite if you was wanting comfort, right?
Yeah, if you're wanting comfort, be the opposite, yeah. We'd never build bridges. I was in the combat engineer company. We'd never build bridges in the summertime. We'd build bridges in the wintertime when it was spitting snow and it was about 15, 20 degrees. So, and then you were miserable.
And that way, if you have to build a bridge, you can't ever build it in a worse condition.
That's right, because you know how to act. You can always do it if it's mild weather. Mm-hmm. You can't always do it, if it's miserable and you haven't trained, you can't do it.
What about not eating?
I always had food. I never experienced in the military not eating. It's a high-calorie diet. Because you're exhausting a lot of energy. So you are eating food. If you're not working out and doing things, you will get heavy real quick. A lot of potatoes, a lot of meat.
The MREs.
MREs,
Did you have Vietnam MREs?
I had, not all the time. I had MREs occasionally in Vietnam. But MRE's not bad.
Is that specifically designed for this high-calorie stuff?
Yeah, the MREs, now, you can buy them out here in the civilian environment. Be prepared, because you will put on the weight if you eat those things. Because unless you ride like you ride a bicycle, you will get heavy real quick by eating MREs unless you're doing a good physical fitness program.
So the idea was when you're out in the field, you eat stuff that fills you up and gives you energy.
Gives you energy. You're after energy. And the dietitians, they have full-time.
Now, is that protein?
A lot of it's protein. A lot of it is potatoes, stuff like that.
Pasta?
Pasta, yeah. Spaghetti, a lot of spaghetti. A lot of hamburger meat. Stuff that will give you the energy. And a lot of meat in there. I do remember that. But it's been a long time now. I've been retired since '81, so I've been out 39 years.
Would you say that you are a military guy, an appraiser, or a county commissioner?
My life was structured by the military. Although I might not appear to a lot of people, I don't talk unless I generally know what I'm talking about. I've learned in the military to keep my mouth shut until I know what I'm talking about. The military structured my whole life. You don't see, I do a lot of talking on the county commission. You don't see me talking unless I'm reading from something. I know what I'm saying and I won't be misquoted. And then as an appraiser, I do that now because it was a source of income at one time. I do it now because I enjoy it. But my whole life was structured by the military. And being a county commissioner, I apply a lot of the things that I learned. I don't be spinning too many things. I lived in an environment in the military where you told the truth, factually and direct, and then you suffered the consequences. But military's got a good way normally of operating. I'm going to give you a mission. I'm going to ensure that you're trained. I'm going to ensure you have the equipment to do your mission. And then I'm going to ask you before you leave, do you have anything that you need? Do you have everything you need, or do you need anything? And normally you'll say no. I'll leave you alone. I won't bother you. You can talk to anyone that's worked around me. I'll never bug them. If I bug them, there's a reason I'm bugging them. And God help you if you don't do your job. So, that's the reason you're trained. That's the reason I ask you, do you need anything? And that comes from the military. And I never looked at it like that, but my whole life was structured by the military.
Now, you'd said if they had the draft today, people wouldn't have these problems that they think they have, would they?
No, I don't think that we would have we wouldn't need as many people in the military today as we did back in those days, but we have the Forestry Service, we have the National Health Service, and we have, what's that thing, Peace Corps. We have the Peace Corps. We could take what the military needs and train them, run everyone through basic training. And then,
run everybody through Army basic training.
Right, or some type of basic training, military basic training. Run them through it, and then take what you need, or those volunteers that want to stay in the Army or military, send the rest of them out as you need them. But get them out of the environment that they're in. The basic training teaches them discipline, teaches them responsibility. And then when they get out of their 2 years or whatever time frame we keep them in there, they're different people. they'll think about these things before they act stupid. And I think it would resolve a lot of issues that we have. But everyone needs to go through basic training. Be tore down to ground zero and built back up.
Get rid of all your old habits.
Get rid of the old habits, that's right. And they would be different.
What made you decide to be a county commissioner?
That's an interest. Well, it's not interest. I don't know. I really don't know if I should talk about it or not. My grandson might not appreciate it. My grandson was being bullied in school, and his mother was trying to get it taken care of and couldn't. And he wasn't being bullied by fellow students. He was being bullied by teachers. That's hard for a lot of people. It happens. It happens. A lot of people have trouble grasping that. But, you get in the timeout in the corner, or you sit by yourself in the classroom, or you're with a group of people, you're one of 3 or 4 talking, but you're the only one that's ever picked on. And that is what was happening. Nothing was being done about it. And I told my daughter, I said, well, I'll try to run for county commission. I'll see what I can do. And in the meantime, I suggested she get a hold of her Board of Education member, which is Vicki Beatty. And she did. Vicki went up to see the principal at North Lee. And between that visit and my daughter speaking with the principal, it got ironed out. But in the meantime, I had already ran for office and got elected. So then I kept going on education. I discovered my grandson went from North Lee to Ocoee Middle, but they didn't have enough textbooks to take home at night. Back then it was textbooks, not necessarily what they have today, but they couldn't take them home because they didn't have enough. But I looked at the budget, and we're traveling. The school system is traveling all over the country. Nothing local, nothing in Nashville, Orlando, Florida, going all these other big fancy places. And then we were having dinners or Christmas, I call them Christmas shopping trips to Gatlinburg at the taxpayers' expense. And as you probably recall, I started raising holy heck about it. And we went forward from there. We cut that travel down to necessity. And we cut the annual Gatlinburg shopping trip out. I call it, it was a conference. They call it a conference, but it was nothing geared right before Christmas to do your shopping, big dinners and things. But I very quickly, been having a military mind, I set my platform. I decided that it would be education and jobs, and I think I've done my best to accommodate those things. We've worked hard at it. We've come a long way in the school system. We now have the new one, middle school at Lake Forest. We have the expansions at Black Fox and North Lee, and we have the energy program where we updated, $18 million program where we updated all the existing buildings with new plumbing, electrical, windows, and air, which what we did give new life to those. We don't have to replace them. And the savings in energy makes the bond payment. So it costs the taxpayers nothing. And matter of fact, it makes more than the amount required for the bond payment. So I didn't develop that myself, Johnny Mull, in the school system. I was involved in pushing it through, making sure the program got through. But and then jobs, I pushed the new industrial park. I've also pushed development up at Charleston. Not Locker was already done. I had nothing to do with that, but some of the other places up there, and this payment in lieu of taxes. I was a strong proponent of that. We get these manufacturing people like Mars to keep expanding. The local firms keep expanding. Well, we still collect the taxes that they were paying. We just delay full tax rate on what they're expanding on, but we get new people hired, we get new taxes generated. People have good paying jobs, and that's been done multiple times. And then after a certain period of time, you start getting the full tax on that. And that's been quite successful. And we've come a long way. We got a long way to go, but we've come a long way.
And you took that hump out of Frontage Road.
Oh, yeah.
Where all those cars were wrecking.
Yeah, we had the curb on Frontage Road right by the Wind Trace subdivision entrance. And these kids, not kids, young people were driving, and it had the slope was screwed up on the curve there. And we got that after about 8 or 10 bad wrecks there, flipping cars.
There hadn't been a wreck there, knock on wood.
There hadn't been a wreck there since they corrected it.
That must have been the problem.
It was a slope on that thing, and when you looked at it from the perspective, knowing that the slope was a factor, you'd never thought of it before, but then you looked at it from that perspective, it was very evident that somebody not familiar with speed, if they were doing a little bit over the speed limit, would lose control when they made that curve. They'd get off the road, and it was too late at that point.
Yeah.
And we've corrected we've corrected a lot of the accidents that happened at Walker Valley intersection with Lauderdale Memorial Highway. We immediately started on school safety, put in 2 cars, blue lights at Walker Valley, one on each end, so these kids would know that there's somebody looking at them. And also, we've accomplished, without any fanfare, every major road in the 2nd District going north has been paved.
I believe it has.
Oh, I know they have.
Yeah.
Candace Creek Ridge has been paved. Frontage Road has been paved. Mouse Creek has been paved. Jenkins Road has been paved. Chatta Valley has been paved, and Dry Valley has been paved. We got them all paved. All the major roads are paved. But oftentimes, that brings on other issues. People drive too fast because the road is too smooth. And there are no shoulders out there on most of these roads. You just leave the pavement and you're in the ditch. And that takes a lot of money. But we're trying hard. As far as time, I spend up until 2 months ago, I was spending more time on the commission than I was on appraising. But I enjoy it. I enjoy helping people. But, intermission.
What do they meet? Once a week or once?
We meet weekly. 4 Mondays a month.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Well, work session on a Monday. The next Monday will be the voting session. And we, the 5th Monday, we're off. Like this month has 5 Mondays, so we don't meet tomorrow. But we have 2 meetings at noon in a succession. We have a work session and a voting session at noon, and we have the same at night at 7 p.m. And that's designed, it was put in place before I was elected, but it's designed to give everyone an opportunity, if they want to attend. It's sad, but very few people attend these meetings.
I've been, it is very few.
Very few. Very few people attend. Normally the work session, you put it on the agenda to be voted on. The committees is where the recommendations are made at.
How many county commissioners are there?
There's 14 county commissioners, 2 per district.
Are they all there at the meetings? That'd be a lot. That'd be.
Yeah, most of the time we'll run full 100%, but sometimes you'll have a couple missing. And if they are missing, they try to make it. Most of them try to make it, try to be gone on a work session, not a voting session.
Is there who's your other commissioner in
the great Louis Alford?
Louis Alford.
Never, believe it or not, I think the world of him. I had never met Louis Alford before I became retired from the military, and never had a reason to meet him. I didn't go to high school.
I knew Dickie. That's his brother, right?
Dickie Alford is the constable, lives in Maple Forest or Maple.
Yeah, I
Charleston.
like him, Dickie.
Yeah, that's his brother. But I got elected and met Louis, and I think the world of Louis Alford. He's a tremendous asset to the county. I think a lot of him.
Do you get calls on county commission stuff, or?
This might be shocking. You would think I'd be inundated with calls, but I'm not. I got, when we had all the debate on the animal control, I got maybe 3 calls on that, maybe 4. I've got their names at home and the action that was taken. But I got, there was an issue here recently we're going through, still going through it, I guess. I've gotten the virus, having school. I've gotten.
What's your take on that?
We need to take the precautions necessary to keep the children safe, but the kids have got to go to school. We've got to get them in school. We are not prepared in this county to have virtual education because we don't have internet in the whole county. Mm-hmm. Consequently, some get left out, and those that get left out are the underprivileged or the lower income people. Mm-hmm. The people that need the education the most are the ones that gets left out. Mm-hmm. But we have a school system, Dr. Cash and the school board got a tremendous program. The school buses are cleaned and social distancing.
What do you mean, they're cleaned every day, or how they?
A couple, 3 times a day. It's amazing.
With what? What do they clean them with?
Towels and that stuff you spray on them. And then they get off the bus. First thing that happens, the temperature's checked.
So they check everybody's temperature. My boy goes to.
Yeah, he goes through that. Doesn't he?
Walker Valley. I can't. He doesn't say, but I know he takes a mask with him.
Yeah. Then well, he's high school. They're supposed to wear a mask.
He's got Mike Ormby's mask that he gave him. You know that Mike Ormby?
Yeah. I've got one with all the car pictures.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah. And they give that temperature check, and if you have a temperature, you're immediately pulled out, and then you are checked by the nurse.
What is she? Does she?
I don't know how they.
I don't know how they do it.
I don't have what to know. Well, they spot your head and give you.
If you don't have a temperature,
you're going to go around on the end of school, and then you're broken into groups inside. So if someone in that group gets positive, comes in from home and gets positive, they don't have to shut the whole school down. They'll take that group and they'll put those in quarantine.
That has got to be more work than they're
used to. It's an incredible amount of work, but the bottom line is these kids have got to get back into school. Now, the alternative is you keep them at home, the middle class and above that's got internet, no problem. They're going to probably, the parent has to stay out of work to give them homeschooling. Yeah. But those kids that don't have internet and the parents don't stay at home, they don't get it.
Plus, there's not many in the schools that have gotten it, right? I mean, it's been open.
No, it's been very few, and I think everyone that has gotten it has come in with it. They haven't. Yeah. And they've been picked up very quickly.
Do you think it's possible that kids are safer in the school, not getting COVID, than they would be if they weren't in school?
Well, if they were in an environment where they were with a group of people, they're much safer in school than they would be, I think. And then you have the other issue about these kids not getting them in school is feeding them. Now, there's a lot of children that don't get fed.
I can't imagine that.
That don't get fed.
How could you imagine? I can't imagine
It's unbelievable. The refrigerator be full of beer, but their kids are hungry. I don't understand that, but there's a lot of children out there that get 2 meals a day, and they don't have internet, so they're hungry, no internet, and they're home by themselves. So there is absolutely no question in my mind. If done properly, we've got to get these
Those
kids.
Parents weren't in the military.
Well,
right?
I'd say most of them weren't. No, yeah. I'd say most of them were not in the military. Yeah. Oh.
But we're making it through. But you're right; they've got to go back to school.
Yeah, you take a year of that kid's life.
They almost had it last year. I mean, it was what, from
March forward.
And they were March. When's school out?
Last week of April, last week of May.
So about 2.5 months. They're already short.
Yeah, they shafted them last year.
Can you imagine being your senior year, senior prom, all those things that you're supposed to do, the year that you can be the upperclassman, and all of a sudden you can't go and you got to wear them. It's just got to be terrible.
It has to be. It has to be bad. I don't. We deprived the kids of what they should have had. I don't know that. I don't know that we should have kept them out that long. But the public, I think, was scared. All of us were concerned. It probably was the logical thing to do at the time.
Knowing what everybody knew, it was probably the right.
Probably the right thing to do at the time, knowing then what it was going to be. We shut the whole economy down. So if you're going to do that, you're going to shut the schools down too.
Now, if it goes on till this, till next school year, will it go back to the normal, or do you think it'll be similar to the way it is now, or if they come out with the vaccines, everybody goes, okay, everybody get your shot and you're okay?
I don't think life will go back to the way we had it for a long time.
What, 2 years or 20?
I'd say 20. You'll have people that were part of their dress now will be a mask when they go out. They'll start,
vaccine or no vaccine?
Yeah, vaccine or no mask. People will start what we call social distancing automatically from now on.
I find myself, and I don't worry about it. And, if you've got a cold and you're sneezing, I'm standing back anyway.
Yeah, that's me. I don't go to large crowds anyway. Social functions, I don't go to very many social functions.
I've never eaten without washing my hands.
But that's the way you were raised. You were raised properly. But these other kids aren't. Well, not all, but many of these children aren't raised that way, and it's sad. But we cannot deprive the kids of an education. And before you know it, when they get through high school, they'll be 19 instead of 17 or 18. And 1 year of their life is gone. But not everyone can live with one mother or daddy at home to make sure they get schooling during the day at home if you didn't have it. Most of them couldn't do it anyway.
No.
They wouldn't know what to
I wouldn't know where to start teaching my kids 12th grade stuff now.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
Didn't.
It wouldn't make any sense to me at all.
So, Tom, now being the second district, you don't have anything to do with this statute issue, right?
No, the statute lies within the city. It's on private property, Daughters of the Confederacy. I think it's a very small tract, 12 feet by 12 or something of that nature. But it is private property, and you go back to the founding of our country, that was one of the precepts that we were organized on, was respect private property. And the city has the responsibility of addressing the issue, and I would think that they're lingering on too much. It should have been hit, in my opinion. Again, I'm very straightforward. I think it should have been hit on at the beginning, and then let the issue die. But they've lingered on, and now they got formed up some council or something to come up with strategy, and it should have been handled about 6 weeks ago or a month ago.
For just the average citizen like me, I couldn't point that statue out in a lineup, but it's been there my whole life.
Well, I grew up when I moved back to Cleveland from Meigs County, I grew up on Parker Street. The front door of that music building was where my house sat. And I walked by that statue all the time. I never even knew there was a man on top.
Didn't even know it.
I could care less.
Is it a man? I mean, is it a specific man?
No, it's not a specific. I think it's just a man that they formed an image of a man and put him up there, I think.
He's a Confederate soldier.
I'm assuming it is. I never.
I
never even.
Does it say anything on there?
I've never even read it.
I neither. I don't even know what.
It commemorated something, and it goes back to what I quoted at the county commission, and I'll repeat the quote here. And it is a quote. I didn't say this myself. I didn't come up with it. I did say it. But history is not there for you to like or dislike. it is there for you to learn from it. And if it offends you, that's even better, because then you are less likely to repeat it. It's not yours to erase, it belongs to all of us. Now that basically summarizes my thoughts right there, period. But what we have here are some professors, I call them agitators. They will get highly irritated at me for calling them agitators, but we have a religious institution for a college that allows their property, that's a vacant lot owned by Lee University, to have the organization and assembly and protesting done from that vacant lot. Black Lives Matter, which is a organization partially funded by George Soros, who is a socialist. Consequently, you now have Lee University implied that they are supporting socialism and Black Lives Matter by allowing that to take place on their property. I wouldn't have a problem if they were there, standing there protesting. It's all been peaceful so far, but I'm not in the habit of supporting socialism, and especially when you have a great institution like Lee University is. The implication is, since they allow it to take place on their property, that they support it. And you have allegedly 2, maybe 3 professors that are helping them. So it is an issue.
You mean some of the professors are actually behind this?
Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, there's 2, maybe 3.
Why don't they tell us what their problem is?
I think they're typical liberalism in our country. It's the thought that counts, not the action. So they don't want to come too far boldly. But I don't believe that it's an issue that should be brought out and supported by the university. I think they need to stick to their mission of education, Christian education, and leave the political activism to others off their property.
I don't know where else they'd stand, but they wouldn't have anywhere to stand with that.
That's their
You know,
problem.
I've been by there, and I haven't even seen any protesters. I don't know if I'm going at the wrong time, or I probably got 900 things on my mind.
You might have, well, as busy as you are, you've probably driven by them, not even noticed them. You normally have 1 or 2 at.
So it's not really a particular student. I understand there was a girl from Nashville or something that.
I think there was a young student from Nashville, female, I believe, that was starting. It's the front person for it, but
Now we know, doesn't Nashville have statues?
yeah, they have statues.
Golly.
Yeah, I think we've allowed this issue to go far enough. It needs to be looked at from a different perspective, and that perspective is it's going to stay and let it be a historical monument. If you don't like it, then you can look at it.
Well, it's a Confederate soldier. I mean, that's what we are. We were, weren't we, Confederate?
This area was both Confederate and Union during the Civil War, and families
But
were
the property
split.
is owned by the Daughters of the Confederacy.
The property is owned by the Daughters of the Confederacy, City of Cleveland, back when it was constructed. The statue was constructed, apparently, gave the property to the Daughters of the Confederacy. So it's private property.
So why even the city council has any? What's they got to do with it?
I think appeasement of the.
But it's not even their property.
That's you and I agree, but it's I'm not on that city council. But I don't know what to say to respond to you, except that the issue should be resolved. We need to get on with business.
Yeah, we got more problems
We
than
got
that.
we got other problems and issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sure do. I don't know how it got to this point. My way of looking at things is it should have been addressed head on at the beginning, and then let the law enforcement take care of the rest of it, and we'd have moved on. It would be amazing to go back to the military. Several of these people spent about 3 or 4 days in over here in Bradley County Jail and eat that good food that they serve over there, that good cuisine, they might have a better appreciation for what this country's all about.
Would you say an MRE at the Vietnam MRE was better than the Sheriff's Department?
Oh
food?
Lord, yes. MRE had good food. It was just potent. It's designed to give you energy. Back then, they had a little packet of cigarettes. They had chewing gum, a little packet of.
Why the chewing gum?
I guess to work on your teeth because you didn't have
Toothbrush, I guess.
Yeah, it cleans your teeth.
I've noticed at the restaurant you like stronger coffee than I do.
Or
I don't call it stronger, I call it grittier.
I drink my coffee black.
And I do too, but you like it. You like it burnt.
I
don't.
I take it as they give it to me, but I never had weak coffee in the Army. And I've never polluted my coffee with cream or sugar either.
But is that where you learn to drink coffee so black? Not so black, because I drink it black, but you drink it what I call burnt.
If that's the way it's given to me, I don't go to Starbucks. Starbucks is too much for me. I don't go to Starbucks. But I do drink strong coffee. And when I am traveling, a lot of times my wife and I will go to Fort Benning or we'll go to Fort Campbell to the commissary, Redstone Arsenal, and we'll buy the Army coffee, military coffee.
What is military coffee?
Oh, it's just regular coffee.
I mean, is it?
It's just ground up
JFG
coffee.
or does it say anything?
No, it's a plain can. You know, like the JFG can about that high.
What's the name brand?
It's normally not named. It just says coffee. And I guess through my years of being in the Army, I've recognized it. And in the companies, and when you're in the military, they normally bring the coffee out in big old metal containers. But you can buy it there, and it's good coffee.
So if you're at home, you're drinking coffee from a commissary?
Yep, you'll find about 6 big cans of coffee right now in my pantry.
You drink it all day or just?
No, my wife prepares coffee when we get up, and 5 o'clock every morning I start drinking coffee, and I quit when I leave the oil for it.
So you get up at 5?
5 every morning.
With an alarm clock or just get up?
No, I've got the.
Why wake up at 5?
Well, in the military I got up at 4:30, so at 5 I'm giving myself 30 extra minutes.
Now that you're retired.
Now that I'm retired, I go.
What goes on at 5 o'clock? I mean,
I sit down and watch the news and everything, local news.
What channel?
Channel 9. My wife watches 9. I don't pick the channel. She watches.
It's
9.
already on.
It's already.
So they're giving the early stuff.
Early stuff, and
if I wake up at 5, I just pee.
Really?
And go back to bed. Yeah.
I get up 5 o'clock. I'm rolling. And I leave the house at. I start getting ready to leave at 6.
So for the first hour, you're doing what?
Relaxing.
Just watching the news?
Yeah, watching the news.
You then took a shower at night?
Yeah. What do I do that at 6?
So at 5 o'clock, you get up, put on your clothes, brush your teeth, and get a cup of coffee?
No, I just leave my pajamas on until 6, and then I take a shower and do everything real quick.
So that's why you're at the restaurant at quarter to 7.
Takes about 12 minutes to get to the.
So you're regimented.
I go to bed at 10 o'clock sharp, and my family knows. My family knows unless it's life or death. Don't be calling me after I go to bed, because I'm supposed to get six hours.
You watch TV at night or just go to bed?
I haven't watched TV probably months. I watch on the internet.
But at 10 o'clock you go to bed and just close your eyes?
I'll go to sleep at 10
Don't
o'clock.
turn on the TV?
Oh, no.
Well, how you go to sleep? I can't go to sleep without the TV on.
You're not on 9 different medications.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem going to sleep.
So you just close your eyes and go to sleep?
I go to sleep. I always tell my wife, good night, I love you. And when I leave, I tell her I love you. Because it's been 55 years of marriage, and every time I've been home, I've always done that. And might not be able to do that. I might die in a car wreck or something.
Yeah.
So I make that a policy. But I am a very regimented, I don't appear to be when you
No, I know you're regimented.
I'm regimented now.
You're regimented.
If you don't think I'm regimented, just hang around.
Yeah.
Everything's on a time schedule with me, and I'm never late unless
You're never late.
I'm always normally early.
Lombardi time. You ever heard of that?
You know, I know
That's
Lombardi, but
that's 10 minutes before you're supposed to be there.
you know, you always you learn that in the military. My whole life is structured in the military. God help you if you are late.
You're just not late.
You're just not late. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But once, and that's it. Then you've got another thing that people have a problem with, and that's coming in late for every meeting out here in civilian life. You got people that have meetings. You always got that one person that'll drag in consistently, that same person.
As a general rule, I've done mark them off.
They got a problem. They got a mental issue. To begin
Yeah.
with. They might not realize
Yeah,
it, but they
but
have they have a mental issue, and that's to be recognized. So, and I'm probably saying too much,
Yeah.
but there are those out here.
Well, I mean, if you're supposed to be there at a certain time, be there at a certain time.
Yeah, you can adjust your schedule.
Sure.
All
Yeah.
the other people.
If you can't adjust your schedule to be on time, then you can't deal with
no,
that
you've
person.
got other problems if you can't do that. But it gets back to organization.
Yeah. Do you think Trump's going to pull it out?
I personally feel Trump will win by a considerably greater margin than he did in 2016. I believe that he will not carry some of the New England states. He will not carry Illinois. He will not carry California, Washington, and Oregon. But a very strong likelihood he'll carry the remaining states.
Why not Oregon?
It's a haven for leftist ideology out there. I don't know why, but
I don't believe. I believe he'll win big.
oh, I think
No
he'll-
question.
yeah.
But I just don't believe that if you're living in Portland, Oregon, and people are burning buildings down, I just don't believe you're going to sign up for more of that.
Well, they're not running the mayor out of town. The mayor is refusing assistance from the federal government, and the people are tolerating it.
How big is Oregon?
I don't really. It's about the size of the state of Washington. It's about 1/4 of the size, I believe.
How big is it compared to Tennessee?
It would be probably a little larger than Tennessee. Probably.
I can't imagine that whole state is thinking that way. I just can't.
Well, that whole
believe it.
state is more like one state. Tennessee is like 3 states.
So Oregon is more cohesive.
Yeah, cohesive.
What you're saying is what they're thinking in Portland is pretty much the whole
pretty
state.
much the whole state, I would think.
And because they're not ousting the mayor, then they must be for that type
Yeah,
of
they're
behavior.
not There's no one protesting about the mayor. There's no effort made to recall him or to boot him out of office. No one's doing any of that. Here, the latest issue that I recall, the last day or so, he has put an open letter out to President Trump refusing federal assistance.
Well, what does he want?
I don't know what he wants. He wants socialism, which he's getting. I mean,
Yeah.
compare what's happening in Portland, compare that to Venezuela and Cuba and some of these other places. It's identical. The strategies are all the same.
I guess that's what he's wanting.
It must be what he's wanting, tear down society as
Yeah.
we know it. Yeah.
That would be rough for the rest of us.
It would be disastrous for most of us. Yeah, it surely would.
All right. Well, Tom, have we covered it all?
I believe we've covered the waterfront. I had never dreamed that we would cover so much in such a short period of
Well, I
time.
know you go to bed at 10. Do you? You don't watch any TV at night?
Outside of the local news in the morning, I watch no TV anymore.
No Fox News?
Nope, I quit watching Fox News. When I do watch news, rarely on TV, I turn it to One American News, where I don't have to listen to all that screaming and hollering. And
One American News?
yeah, OAN. I know I've got DirecTV, and it's channel 347.
What do they have?
Just regular news straight through.
So it's not
not,
biased?
not biased that I can see. It's straight news.
Who funds it?
I think they're trying to start off on their own.
Is that girl and boy that are from two separate sides that are trying to just give the news?
There's normally a male or a female giving the news, and that's all I see. But I watch that when I do watch the news, which is very rare. I quit watching Fox News about 6 months ago. I got tired of all that.
I get tired
People
of it
talking
too.
over other people.
Yeah, and they're just talking to themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not going to change my mind about anything.
My mind is made up.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of the Democratic convention
I
or
didn't
the
watch any.
Republican.
I watched the senator from North Carolina. His speech was really good. I mean, it was one of the best I've heard. And I watched Trump's, and it was really good. Other than that, I didn't even watch it.
There's nothing that can be said that would change my mind.
Nothing. They
So
can't
there's
change
no reason for me to get stressed out watching that nonsense.
You know, this sounds crazy, but I got Roku and cable and all of this. I got more remotes than you can imagine. But I go to McKay's bookstore in Chattanooga, and I get a series. Like right now, I'm watching Taxi, the whole series, and I watch those CDs every night, like 2 shows or something. And you forget how funny, like Taxi was, or Gilligan's Island.
But that's how TV used to be. It's not like that
I
anymore.
mean, those were funny stuff. Andy Griffith, the Honeymooners. I don't know if the Honeymooners could even be on TV anymore.
No, I rarely watch One American News. Now, I did watch One American News this morning. I got up and flipped it on and listened to it. Then I went upstairs and got on the Drudge Report, which gives you the headlines, and then it gives you the connections around the world.
Now, Sundays, if you don't go to the restaurant, what do? Still wake up at 5?
No, I think I normally get up 5:30 on Sundays. But I go upstairs and do banking and stuff like that. Go up to my office.
Don't eat breakfast on Sunday mornings?
I eat 4 boiled eggs. Discipline, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to screw it up. I don't know, my body might not handle it. Oh, Lord.
All right, Tom. I enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it. Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity.